All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Hope you're having a lovely can so far. My name's Seb Joseph. I'm the executive editor of news at Digiday, and I will be moderating what promises to be a kind of candid but very thoughtful discussion on a trend that I think is going to define this can in many respects, and that is how brands today are trying to get their head around how they get discovered in a world where increasingly that whole sort of process is being driven by AI platforms and the algorithms that sort of power this. Meaning that they're going to have to start thinking a lot, not just about clicks and rankings, but increasingly about how they elicit recommendations from those systems. To help unpack that, I'm joined by an illustrious group of experts, all of whom I'm going to ask to introduce themselves, if only because they'll do a far better job of it than I will. So we'll start with Renata and work our way down.
Hello everyone, nice to be here. Thank you for coming to listen to us today. Exciting topic on the future of search and the AI rally. I'm Renata, I'm part of Havas Media Network. I'm CEO in charge of what we think at Havas is the next growth practice, which is obviously data, but not only data, but also everything that is connected through the data and through the search to e-commerce and performance. So in that capacity, I'm here today to share my humble view on what we think the future holds.
Wonderful. My name is Andrew Warden. Getting a little bit of feedback, I think we'll get it. It's a tricky way to introduce myself. I was CMO of Semrush for almost 5 years, and we were just acquired by Adobe, which is an amazing thing to have happened. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But I'm here today, and we're here at this villa, actually. A lovely marketing team organized all the programming. Thank you again. But we're here. Yeah, I can't wait to jump into this topic. This has been keeping me awake at night for the last 2 years. I'm sure the same for you.
We're sure.
All of us.
So, and yeah, I'm just going to say right up front, especially because we have a very intimate audience, and as well, this is all captured and will go out on social, of course. But we're going to be a little bit vulnerable on this panel, and I'm gonna lead us that way. So a lot of good stories to share. Paolo.
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Paolo Provinciali. I'm a VP of Marketing at LinkedIn, and I oversee the teams that manage paid and owned media, measurement and analytics, web, and marketing technology. And also, this is a topic that's kept me up at night quite a bit over the past year or so, but it also gave me the chance to learn a lot. And so I want to share that knowledge with all of you and what we learned and where we failed, where we did better, and hopefully learn also from my fellow panelists. So looking forward to it.
Great stuff. Andrew, before we dive into the crux of it, just set this in for us a bit, right? You're in a unique position, having helped marketers get their heads around how to sort of grow their visibility organically. Then you've had to help them sort of reconcile with the fact that traffic is declining. And now you're starting to sort of talk them through, well, what comes after that?
Yeah.
Talk us through how marketers are sort of meeting that moment.
Yeah. So look, I think I'm not sure everyone really understands or grasps that what has happened in the last 18 months to 24 months has completely changed marketing. It's completely changed. And I've been calling this kind of the marketer's oh shit moment. And the reason why I have a very particular view on this is that being CMO of a company, which its raison d'être, its reason for being, is to help companies with their organic traffic. We also had problems with our organic traffic. So imagine being a CMO or an executive leading and actually being primarily responsible for the revenue capture of a business. And we have some of the best people in the world working on SEO. And we also deliver SEO products, AI search products. And imagine that all of a sudden your funnel evaporates and clicks completely disappear. And your board is saying, fix it, right? Which you need to. And I think that this has been just such and again, I was just speaking to someone earlier today before we started the talk. We're now at this kind of right size moment about 18 months later, where we now know a few things, right? We know that SEO and own content is absolutely foundational. We know that you cannot be successful in AI search without the technical SEO components, backlinks, brand and domain authority, and all the signals that need to feed and actually tell LLMs that they can trust you. But then at the same time, you also need to make sure that your brand is showing up in a totally different way, or ways that actually as CMOs you didn't used to care about as much, right? I mean, when was the last time we of course care about PR, we of course care about content, we of course care about all these and all these other channels, but who would have expected that YouTube would show up 9 times more in Google AI overviews and over 20 times more in GPT? Like the constellation and the way to show up has become like 500 times more complicated for teams. So I think that the way that I like to kind of set this scene is that for marketers, it has been this oh shit moment. It's been a lot of people, there's a lot of fear, like I can't get my job done. I can't also prove value to my boss, right? Mm-hmm. It's a big deal. And I think finally I would just rest on this idea of, even still CMOs are panicking about, my traffic is still falling off a cliff. I don't have clicks. I can't demonstrate this value. What is this team doing? And I don't think people realize that the intimacy that's being created with LLMs and like your experience with GPT or Claude or with whatever your favorite flavor, it's showing up in real practice. I mean, consumers that come through AI search or through LLM traffic convert 4.4 times better than prior or than in quote traditional search. Mm-hmm. So this is a huge issue that people are still panicking about. We finally have a very strong view, I think. We'll talk about it more on the panel. But I think it's, the best part about this story is that it no longer needs to be an oh shit moment. Like we have the tools, we have the solutions. We now have Adobe brand visibility. Like we have the tools to get the job done, and most importantly, to measure it. And that is something, and we'll talk about it because this is the thing. Like, yeah. So that's my kind of opener. I don't know. Does it land for you? Do you connect with it somehow?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm happy to also
Paolo,
give my flavor. Yeah, my oh shit moment. Yeah, no, I love it. And I love let's be real in this panel kind of thing. So very connected to what we were saying, but I want to take a step back for what is my business. And as LinkedIn, we have both B2C products and B2B products, right? And we see from the research that actually 94% of the B2B buyers they actually do a research on an LLM, on AI search, ChatGPT, what have you, even before talking to a sales rep, right? And also what we see is that when B2B buyers go to market, they have already a list in mind. And 90% of the time, they end up buying from that list. So if you put the two stats together, you realize one thing, that list is probably given by an LLM. And therefore, my oh shit moment was when we saw our traffic declines, our marketing qualified leads that for everyone working in B2B is like you live and die by it, especially in your relationship with sales, it starts declining. And if you're in my seat, your sales counterparts and your finance counterpart call up to you and say, the fuck? What are you going to do about that, right? Yeah. And so you have that moment, and then you have to click through the data a little bit better. And you see what, Andrew, you were just saying is that actually the traffic that is coming from LLMs is much more qualified, has a much higher intent to buy, and they're ready to buy, and they buy more, right? So for us, like after the shell shock of saying, okay, the traffic is disappearing, is actually understanding how you deal with that, which is not trying to claw back that traffic, but actually trying to shape the conversation where it's happening. And we're going to get deeper into this, but to your point, when the conversation is shaped by every touch point, every surface on the internet, right? Your YouTube comments, from the blog reviews, from your whatever it is, your editorial piece, whatever you have, then you have to be present, everywhere, all the time. And it's very overwhelming for marketing teams. So, you need to be structured in the way you tackle it.
Renata, how did that urgency, shall we say, transpire through the conversations that you were having with clients?
That came in stages, to be honest. I would say my oh shit moment was like a gradual understanding with clients of the fact that it's not the brand that has the largest number of assets and content, or the biggest advertising budget, or the greatest visible campaign, that is actually one that will show up in the AI search results. And I think that came at a bit of a shock of everyone, because when the first thing, when this came along, we went like, okay, this is an extension of an SEO. It's fine. We will allocate a little piece of budget to it. It needs to be catered for. And suddenly you realize it's not only about just doing a better SEO, it's the whole evidence system that needs to be revised. And it's not like optimizing more of one channel. It's optimizing a lot of other things in the company in order to show up. And I think that was a oh shit moment for everyone, because clients were not necessarily ready for it. They were asking in the first place is like, get me out there and make sure that I'm also visible on this as part of fix it moment, as Andrew said. And that was a revelation, because you have to start thinking differently about your run it. It's no longer just about performance. And Paolo touched up on it. It's like, you can have a great AI visibility, but if commerce doesn't capture it, then it's basically useless, because your ultimate conversion, whatever the conversion is it sales, is it subscription, is it lead, is it something else, is useless. So it's not only about how do you integrate it as part of your performance campaign, but how do you ultimately integrate it for clients as part of your overall business ecosystem. So I think that was my big revelation, trying to also educate a lot of clients, because as you say, a lot of CMOs are still, how do I explain this to my CFO? How do I explain to the company that suddenly the website traffic has fallen down? Where is my conversion? And all of that.
It has become a board level priority. I mean,
Exactly.
The number of clients that text me with like literally screenshots from their very spicy CMO or CEO, excuse me. I'm sorry. Just need some water. Yeah, sorry. Basically, the number of those messages I get where someone, a CEO, will search or in an LLM and they're not showing up. It's like, why is this happening? So it's wild.
Paolo, just picking up from there, how have you gone about trying to operationalize that new way of thinking?
Yeah, I think that the big revelation for us is that LLM AI visibility is not owned by a single team, but it's a company effort, very much connected to what you were saying, right? And because again, as we were saying before, the one singular answer that LLM gives you to a response to a query that you had is actually crafted by a multitude of touch points that you have on the web. Right. And therefore, the first thing is actually to coordinate the team and making sure that, everyone, sings from the same song sheet in terms of saying your brand and social team, your paid media and SEO team, and, your comms team are all coordinated together. And then we took a very methodological approach in terms of how do we break down this problem. Right, and first and foremost is understanding. Okay, what topics do we want to tackle? Because it's the tendency of wanting to boil the ocean is, you want to fix it, right? And Renata, I don't know about you, but I didn't have a magic wand, right? And so just like I couldn't fix it from one day to the other. And so, okay, we're gonna tackle these problems specifically, or these topics specifically. Then, what does success look like? And for me, it was, visibility, right? And visibility as a short-term metric is great. And then with that, you can actually tailor on what that visibility or what tactics get you that visibility. And we took an approach of actually indexing all the different tactics that you can deploy by visibility that gives you and speed to action for your business, because every company is different. And you probably have seen that with a lot of your clients in terms of like, sometimes actioning with your comms and PR team is super easy. Sometimes it's very, very long. But some other times having a blog post on your blog or posting something on LinkedIn is much, much easier, so you can move faster. And that allowed us to actually have focus on the tactics that had a kind of a higher impact and speed to action, so that we could show momentum. Because also in that board and that C-suite, there's very little patience for it, right? Of course. That's right. And then with that, we established the best practices and the processes, because we weren't used to work in that fashion as a cross-functional organization, right? Again, comms, PR, product. marketing, they all had different cycles, different KPIs, and by aligning on what are we solving for, what is giving us traction, and then how do we make that thing happen, that was actually what gave us the momentum.
And I'm curious also when you put that together, because what I'm seeing as well, again, depending on the company size, and we said we were going to be real. So
Yeah.
I'm just really curious, like, because, you know, in large companies especially, there's, depending on the culture, but even if you have an amazing culture, there's always some kind of turf, right? And so, you know, literally overnight, you have an SEO team or an online visit, an organic team that is empowered with, and especially now with Adobe brand visibility and all of these new tools, you have actually at your fingertips all of this data, and you become really the kind of right hand of the head of marketing, in my opinion, and that creates a bit of tension between teams, right? Because all of a sudden, that person can ring up PR team and say, let's create more articles and noise around these topics with these, and that will actually close our gap, right? Same with brand events, brand campaigns, or products not having the right descriptions or technical documentation that LLMs are adjusting. That's creating clashes, and that's kind of lowering our score. So I'm just really curious if you observed that, and maybe you heard from your clients as well, because like I see this kind of playing out too, where people are jockeying for like, well, hey, hang on a minute. It's like I know it's like, yeah, we all know that you know. But it's so critical, not just across marketing, but across the company.
Exactly.
But for the sake of being real, I'm so sorry.
No.
For the sake of being real, like managing within big companies, it's also the fact that, okay, we're all coming together and we agree that this is the thing that we have to solve.
Yeah.
But what about all the other KPIs and objectives and OKRs that all these other teams were solving for? My product team had other OKRs and a pipeline that they were trying to launch to market. My comms team had stories that they had to, sell in for a narrative that we were building. So my marketing team also had a bunch of other things that were conflicting priorities at that time. And therefore, it's just like, it's not just all being a good team and solving for the same problem. It's also that making space for it in their long list of things that we had to do. I mean, I don't know about what you saw, but like I didn't have 3 times the team and 3 times the time. My day didn't explain.
I get it. The way I explain it to our clients and to CMOs, and I really like what you say about a board challenge now, is it's not about growing your SEO team. It's not about putting more pressure on your performance team. This needs to be a shared responsibility with a clear lead within the company. Someone needs to lead it because, it's not someone else's responsibility, but the organizations today are designed in a way where you are looking at every and single department performance. So it's kind of difficult to say, does it sit with commerce? Does it sit with PR? Does it sit with analytics or your performance team? Or I would even say customer experience team, because all of these guys on top of PR and social and paid media are now accountable. Someone needs to lead it, but how do you bring a much broader organization together saying, actually, whether you like it or not, each of you is co-responsible of how we show consistently in the evidence in the AI. If you guys are not working as one, and if the evidence is inconsistent, then it's everybody's fault.
And you're wiped out of the conversation.
And you're wiped out of the conversation. Because, let me take a fictitious example. An automotive company, like if the brand is pushing for communication on safety, but the retailers are talking all about discounts, the influencers are all about, oh, here is a great design, and then customer experience is completely different story. The thing is that it doesn't match as one. It doesn't come as one ecosystem. So to your point is like, how do you tell CMOs this needs to be clearly led by someone? So who is the leader and who is responsible for this? But how do we make everybody else accountable? Because their work also ties into ultimately how you show up.
That's such an important point. Sorry, Seb, if I can piggyback on, because that has been also like such a big aha for us in terms of, AI in general, right, and everything that is happening for LLMs, it's also, I fundamentally believe, for the sake of being real, that it's going to show the companies and the marketers and the organizations who are actually structured solid and do this right versus the ones that actually had a bit few gaps. What you just explained, making sure that your customer experience, your social experience, your comms and everything is all in sync. It's so important and fundamental in making sure that that single answer that we were talking about before actually reflects what you want to say about your product and company.
It's like it's the new golden thread,
right?
You know, we've always used that analogy, but it's like, you know, it just, the problem has compounded so significantly.
Exactly.
And again, it just takes, and I think this is where I'm always trying to empower CMOs who ask me these questions, where like, this is another moment for marketing leadership to step up and actually go and talk to product and talk to customer success and talk to even legal. I mean, like every function needs to be on board with this plan. And so to your point, start small, you know, create some simple, nothing simple, but some achievable goals, right? And then just continue to grow from there. And also take it easy on your teams. You know, I think this is the other thing, you alluded to this around, you know, don't necessarily be so hard on the performance teams or on the organic teams. Every day I put myself in the shoes of our organic teams, especially the last, like I say, 2 years. I mean, imagine just waking up and like everything you knew just completely evaporated.
It's different.
It's super stressful, you know? So.
Renata, you talk about working with clients to be more accountable. How do you do that in a way that makes them not be their worst enemy, right? Because I can imagine with all of the urgency all three of you kind of talked about, there could be a tendency to reach for quick fixes, right? And lose sight of the fact that really the only way this works is if you focus on why you should be recommended in the first place. And I think because if you know the right levers to pull in these LLMs, you can get quick returns, but that isn't necessarily a sustainable way to go about this. Is that something you encounter? And if so, how do you influence CMOs to think about this in a more sustainable way?
I think there are two ways that we are talking to CMOs about how to fix this. The first one is obviously immediate fix. And I would say that is obvious, is start by asking the LLMs the real life customer questions, not just the set of brand approved questions, because that's not what the people do, and see how you show up compared to how you show up to the competition. Try to understand what are the sources of truth, like who is talking about the brands and why might be some different brand to yours that is being recommended. And once you've done that and you started fixing the basics, then you have to think about the longer term transformation, I think. But don't try to rush it at once if you don't have the solid basis. And I completely agree with what Andrew said in terms of SEO is part for me of the brilliant basics that you still need to do, and it needs to be done well so that you have something to build on. Don't try to rush it to the next stage just for the sake of saying you're not late, and try to build a long-term visibility and evidence, I would say, in a broader ecosystem, also taking into account that customer experience. Because I mean, the hardest thing is when I come in that I'll tell the CMO saying, it is actually your client experience, which is the next signal for the pre-purchase experience for the next customer. And they go like, what do you mean? And they go like, but that's the thing that everybody will look at ultimately. And they will check if you are a source of authority or not on the given subject before they will even consider the brand. And I like what Paolo said is everybody is lost in this invisible middle funnel in terms of like, but why am I not showing up? Like fix it, you know? And they do not realize that the journey is being so compressed because before you had people searching, they opened 5 tabs, they looked at something else, they went to a comparison page or something else, then they checked social. Now they just ask LLM. So maybe your brand will will lose that rally even before it hit your website because LLM has already recommended someone else.
And can I just add? Yeah. So I think as well the way that we think about it too. Yes to everything you said. But I want to do a yes and. So I think the way that I'm also thinking these days, and I think we had maybe 6 hours with analysts last week talking about all of this. In terms of a long-term play, like it's really critical to think about we're solving these problems for 2 audiences now. So as if the problem wasn't complicated enough. But we need to make sure that we show up for the consumers of our products and services, right, in search. But we also have to make sure that we're structuring all of our content for agents. I mean, this year, we didn't expect it to happen, but this year was the first time bot traffic is at 58% of traffic is now bot traffic globally. So this idea that you have to optimize and create these experiences for both audiences now. This, for me, is also the kind of next frontier, which people are. Go ahead.
I was going to say, would you agree, because that's the way I put it forward, certainly, is like when people ask about it, like, do we need to have a different evidence systems for humans and for machines? Like humans need emotion, you know, need all of this, but machine needs something that is structured, readable.
And they do need to be.
I would argue it's the same system. You just use different arguments, because both machine and humans kind of react to the same signals in terms of clarity, usefulness, structure.
I agree with this.
But then you have to have a structured content to be machine readable.
I agree with this. Right now we're testing both.
Okay.
Because no one knows, actually. Like, none of us know yet. But you're right. On principle, if your content is structured, that's clear, if the signals are all there, if the SEO foundation is there, if you have all of these channels lighting up in a similar way, that should absolutely work, and especially in the near term. But I'm also imagining a future that's not so distant, 12 months from now maybe, where, and again, I really need to start getting some data on how much dwell time or how much time people are actually spending in GPT, like per day. Like it's likely hours. The level of intimacy, the level of trust that is created and forged with your own agent, if you will. Soon there'll be transactions happening on your behalf, and so this is what I'm kind of more alluding to. On the kind of making sure that things are easy for agents to pick up. And so you're right on the clarity side. For if it's authentic, if it's human, if it's structured, first and third party data structured very well, that should work. But I'm also just kind of imagining this very, very medium term point where, your GPT knows you so well, knows like what flights you typically take or the types of trainers you buy, and it's been 18 months, it's time to replace your trainers. I already ordered them for you. I already know what you're willing to pay. So this is what I mean.
So you're already playing with the business to agent, basically, B2A.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, like piggybacking to your point, if marketers' job wasn't hard enough, right? Our job was always winning the heart, the minds of people, and now the machine.
And now machine.
Yes.
And now try to do it by also explaining your CFO what's the ROI of all of that. And Andrew, you alluded something before in terms of like we don't necessarily have the measurement, right? And because yes, I'm getting visibility. And so, you get sometimes that stare when you talk about LLM visibility in terms of saying, so what? In the same way, it's like, oh, our brand equity went up, right? And it's like, fantastic, great. What's the ROI of that? And so you're trying to unpack it. And I don't think we're quite there yet because, the one thing, the downside that AI visibility actually shares with SEO is that you cannot really control expose there. You cannot have that deterministic kind of point of view. And therefore, you have to do very sophisticated modeling in order to go back to the ROI. But we also are in these pressures like we cannot wait. And so we're kind of building the plane as you're flying in terms of saying, okay, let's figure out what works, speaking to the humans, speaking to the machines, while at the same time understanding where we put our efforts, our energy, our team, our money, and also try to make sure that our funds don't get cut the next quarter. We all sleep well at night.
Yeah, sure. But in terms of measurements, this is the part I want to just kind of put out on the table because it's a completely brand new way of thinking about it. And I'll do my best. I'm the world's worst salesperson, but I'll try my best. The idea, that's a lie. It's really interesting around, there is no real way out there, please correct me if I got it wrong. I don't know, and I'm not aware of a way to measure from prompt to conversion.
There is none.
But the Adobe and Semrush product team surprised me about a month ago. And they're coining a new term. It's analogous to ROAS, but it's return on brand visibility. I don't know how to say it yet. Like ROAS really rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know.
You'll get back to us when
someone
you need to market it better.
So be a better marketer. That's good to know. So I think but anyway, this now tracks from prompt to conversion, and this is only with Adobe Brand Visibility. This is going to be. We have now I think 15 enterprise customers already in this tool, assessing and also not just spotting gaps between where they show up and where they don't, but also having what I call the easy button, which is generating content that gets deployed to go fix the problem. So when you say, you're not going to add more people to your SEO team, you need to rally all the troops across the whole company. That all of those demands on your time are just going to treble in the next year. But this is also why we started thinking about the measurement, because even I get called by CFO, and it's like, what is the return? Well, what's the cost of not showing up?
Well, I think that you're hitting on a nerve here, because there is no metric that we can use today of saying never considered. But when you're not showing up, you're not going to be considered, right? And therefore, just figuring out how you manage that opportunity cost that you cannot clearly quantify. You can showcase the size of the market, right? It's like the total addressable market, if you will, for a company, but not necessarily what you're missing out quite yet. And therefore, making that connection is going to be great.
Yeah.
I would argue, the way, I don't know a CFO that would invest in AI just for the sake of it. They do a little bit saying like, okay, tell everybody else in the market that we are not late, please. But they will not invest for the sake of it. However, that's what I tell performance teams to help their CMOs to work on, is show them that ultimately, if we show up in the AI search with your brand, you will get a better quality of leads. You might not get as big traffic, but you will get a more ready customers to buy. So the question is, for CFOs at least, it's not how many customers has it brought to me. The question for me now is
quality.
How ready were they to buy when they arrived?
Right.
But let's also be real on the fact that, because I share also the same point of view, but also I skipped a very important piece here. The quality of the leads that you get doesn't compensate the traffic loss that you have. And therefore, right now, we have a very big delta that you have to justify of how is the rest of the sales and the rest of the leads coming in. And this is the measurement challenge that we're trying to solve for.
Well, and that's where all the big fights are happening, right?
That's
because quarter over quarter, companies should expect that their classic organic search will continue to degrade. Right. And you're right. It's not like there's this kind of self-leveling, you know. And I think that's also why we've been trying to figure out how to measure so that so that we have tools to go back and actually go back to board, go back to budget holders and say, look, this is translating. This is a new metric. We're building it out, but there's at least a framework of how to think about it, And I think that's been one of the things I was most surprised and happy about. Yeah.
Andrew, you were talking earlier about the number of solutions that are out there that has allowed clients to think about this more clear with a clear head. Do you anticipate everything that clients, in order to exert more control, taking this in-house like they've done with social, programmatic?
I think it really depends. So your question started about tooling. Yeah. So let me start there and then I'll move to the other piece. I think with tooling, look, as marketers, we're used to either having 1,000 things in our stack and or going and creating our tools because we either can't afford the license or we just want to build it ourselves. So that's very kind of normal, if you will. I do think, though, that there's going to be some kind of reckoning in the next year and a half. There's been so many upstarts, so many kind of new players in the visibility space, I'll call it. Some who don't share the view that SEO is important, and that's really showing up in a bad way for them. So I think the market's going to shift there towards the favor of this total brand visibility, everything we've been discussing today. And a lot of the players out there don't have that orchestration. It's just they're not set up for it. And even if they did, it would take them 5 years to build. On the in and out of house, I think it really depends on the company. I have had CMOs call me and say, my organic is completely tanked. Should I sack my SEO agency? Should I do that? I was like, okay, hold on. Don't fire anybody. Just take a breath, And I think it really depends on the company. I think that the agency can really help support. You're much better suited to answer this question than me. But if it were me making the decision, which it is, like right now we have a hybrid setup, right? Like we absolutely use agency to support and for extra muscle, if you will, on certain efforts. But I think the change we've been talking about this morning around getting companies aligned, like having it start with marketing, right, and the organic team primarily, but then having that fan out, like that. I don't think that can be done. I mean, maybe it can't. Maybe you do that. I don't know. I think that at least that the spark has to come internally, and then maybe the support to get it all built out would be by agency. But I think that's like it's kind of like the stuff of brand. It's like it's the backbone of the company. You know. I don't know how you think about it.
I think a lot of companies are kind of tempted to own it, but as you say, we've seen this also when programmatic came along and people started in housing programmatic buys, saying we can run this in house. 8 years or 10 years later, they are giving it back to the agencies because what you realize is that you very quickly lose the cutting edge in terms of expertise because you have no brand knowledge sharing. You don't have the cutting edge expertise if you only always work on one brand. So I can kind of see that shift with LLMs. Everybody is interested and innovation departments in our clients or someone wants to own it because it's a new shiny thing. I think ultimately it will end up by a hybrid model, but I do not think like in housing the LLM search or SEO is viable opportunity for companies because it is a job in itself, and you have to stay have to stay on that job to do this evidence. I think it will probably bring a really good CMO to pool all of the internal departments that I quoted earlier to one table with a specialist agency to make it happen. So it's a hybrid model. I don't think it will be strategy in-house and execution outside. That kind of doesn't make sense because, as you say, it's part of the brand backbone that you're building. So it needs to come from both sides. But I think specialist agencies are always better poised, or specialist department in agencies like mine, for instance, are better poised to help you because they have learned much faster. And the industry is evolving so fast that it's very complicated, even if it is a very smart person in the client team. They will be one or two as opposed to an agency who has a pool of experts. So you get much faster scale in terms of not missing out what the latest development is, as opposed to try to figure it out for yourself with a couple of people in-house. So that's my point.
You're winning me over with this. We'll talk after.
I mean, I think that at the end of the day, both for brands and solution providers and agencies, you have to be absolutely clear on two things going forward. One, from a brand standpoint, what you own versus what you quote unquote buy. What our skill set and capabilities are internal to you? Because to your point, like an agency can help you accelerate, for example, on both the discovery, the mapping, the content production, the content strategy, and all these kind of things that you don't have it as a core capability internally, and you need to acknowledge that, right? And at that point where you find good partners. Also on the solution side, you have to be, and therefore for the agencies, like, what is my value proposition? What I can bring to you of value that you cannot actually have internally? And that brings back to kind of, your customer in the right way. And from a solution provider as well, it's like, what can I bring to the table that is my kind of unique value proposition? And it's going to become my moat, right? And you were hinting to some of the things that you guys have that, you have a history that rebuilding from scratch nowadays would take other players a much longer time, and therefore just being very clear when there is so much moving so fast, clarity on how you position yourself and the value you can provide, both as a marketing team, as a partner, it's critical, and I think that's the way to go moving forward.
And on that note, I think we will wrap up. So before we go, I'd just like to say thank you to our panelists and thank you all for listening so attentively.
Do we want to ask if there's questions maybe, or I don't know if we're out of time.
To wrap up.
We got any questions?
Okay, any questions?
Or we can just find one another after. Great, there isn't. Oh, okay, yeah.
There is one.
I have a question.
Just a second. Let's get the mic.
Get a mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we're at an interesting in-between time between like agents potentially becoming a more important user, right? Like I guess I'm curious from all your perspective, like at the enterprise level, if you had to pick one, like which prioritize or resourcing, like the user as a VIP, the on-site experience as a VIP experience, or an agent as a VIP experience, like which one would you lean toward?
Go ahead, you go.
The answer is yes. I mean, that's a problem, right? Like we have to do everything everywhere all at once. And so, I mean, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I think that the point is that you have to find the right balance. And the reason why we actually add value in wherever we work is because we're able to strike that balance. And so I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's my point of view.
My answer would be you cannot have a VIP experience on only one channel because the AI is not reading just your website, it's reading the entire business ecosystem. So if you privilege one channel, you will be completely disconnected from what they see everywhere else and you will not show up because AI is not awarding, and that's what I was saying at the beginning, is not awarding someone who really honed their brand message on their website because it will compare it to the customer reviews, it will compare it to your, to your influence, right? And if you don't have that consistency, then you do not show up because AI is looking for a trusted evidence of visibility. So if it is one, you favored one across something else, then it doesn't work.
I agree. Balance.
Yeah.
As soon as you start leaning too strongly in one direction, you will break something else. This is my view. Yeah, it's a great question.
Hi, this is Nipun here. So I'm from India. So a little bit of context. So I am in the consumer products industry. So India is a large country. You all know that 1.4 billion people. So thing is that in the consumer products, you sell to a lot of people and you sell a little bit to everyone, right? So the brand that I handle, for example, also goes to about 70, 80 million households every month. It's a large scale. So in that context, and when a lot of purchase happens offline through mom and pop stores, how do you approach this subject? One, and two, what is the future for that in that case? So as a marketer, do I put a lot of money? How much money do I put? Where in my funnel does it sit? So all those questions, keep running in my mind because a lot of discussions have happened on B2B businesses, digital first businesses.
Sure.
What happens to the consumer?
Oh no! Look, I mean, just last night I was on a panel with Fortune, and it was with L'Oréal and others around. I didn't expect it to be on a beauty panel, but I was, and it was a very similar question of like especially when it comes to consumer goods, right? This is all about reviews. Getting your customers, being champions, and it was interesting last night we were talking about there's this shift from what used to be kind of like brand ambassadors, and actually even the I forgot the woman's name, but she was like, look, I love working with Eva Longoria and all of these people, and we will continue to do that. She's like, but we're actually going to start privileging more of creating experiences for people who post on YouTube, who create all kinds of content, not as influencers, but as just like fans of the brand. So if I were you, like my job would be to go and find and create experiences. It depends on I don't know what you're selling, but I can tell you the L'Oréal example where it was like they're basically rewarding in a non-monetary way because that would also game the system and AI figures that out too. They're rewarding content creators or fans of their brand and their products by inviting them to, I think they invited a few people to Cannes even, for this event, or, something in Paris, or some kind of beauty day. But depending on what you're selling, you can think of all kinds of permutations of those things. I had similar question the other day from the CMO of Miracle Ear. I hope it's okay to share the story. It was like, my client base is a little bit older, right? I think it's a very valid question. Like, how do I get people in their range, age range 60 to 80, something like this? How do I get them posting about, And I'm like, wow, that's a cool challenge. That's a really interesting problem to solve. And I would think about it also just about lighting up. There's usually godchildren, grandkids, or aunts, or there's people around that you can create noise with, right? You can make magic with. So I think this is where we didn't touch at all on the creativity of what has to happen here too, because it's also technical, but it's also this really brilliant moment where you have this new license as a marketer to just go out and just test a bunch of things.
Can I build on something? Yeah. And so this comes from my past experience. Before LinkedIn, I was running media for Anheuser-Busch InBev, the beer company, and therefore CPG product sold B2B2C, right? And it's a challenge I know very intimately in that sense. And I think that going back to your point about creativity, especially in large consumer goods or CPG and things like this, you're selling both a product, but also a brand and an experience and a feeling, right? And so I think that what you need to get very tight on now is making clear what your brand promise is and make sure that that brand promise is paid off in the experience that you live. When you go buy your product at a mom and pop shop and you come home and experience that product, you'll have that feeling that your brand has sold. And so it's also a very real kind of check for brands in terms of saying, can I actually deliver on that brand promise? And so I think that thinking about that in that way helps you also trying to manage the sea of every touch points around the web on 1.3 billion, population that you have to deal with. And so maybe a little bit of a mental shortcut as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Any more questions? No? Before we wrap up then, maybe let's end with, you guys all giving us a piece of advice, right? What would you, if there was one bit of advice based on what you know now, what would you, that you could sort of tell yourself 18 months ago when this problem really became a thing, what would it be? Renata, we'll start with you.
Piece of advice that I would give to clients is, you touched on it, is don't wait for the attribution to become perfect, because we know that there is a lot of things we don't see at the moment. And to your point, Andrew said that they're already building the next metric, but just don't wait for it.
Yeah.
Start already fixing the signals of what is converting to purchase now. Whilst we are figuring out what the next attribution model will look like, we still need to act on it now. Otherwise, you are getting yourself out of market. So start with an audit, look at what people are actually searching for, compare it to your brand messages, fix the whole ecosystem we talked about. You will worry about the attribution model later.
I would do all those things and share the same advice. I would also, I don't think people are talking about it enough. The sheer volume of stress and weight that has come down on SEO and organic teams. And trust me, as someone who applies that pressure, I know it.
But you're the one who's doing everything.
You're the one doing it.
Missing.
But in all seriousness, that's been a learning for me personally as an executive, as a leader, especially the last 18 months. Is also just kind of like, okay, we're going to keep experimenting. Nothing's perfect. It's not like we're kind of working through the fog, if you will. But at the same time, trust your team. Mm-hmm. You hired them. They've been working with you for years. Like, it's not. All these things are happening around. It's not happening to people, because I don't believe in like a victim mentality. But it's like, take it easy with the team. Mm-hmm. This is something I really learned.
Yeah. My advice would be, the advice to my 18 months ago me would be that the coordination is the critical work no one talks about. Because when the one single answer that you get from an LLM is actually sourced from everywhere, you need to make sure that everyone actually is aligned to the same message and the same objective and work in sync. So make sure that you spend time coordinating across every single function in the company. It's not just an SEO and it's not just a marketing problem.
And on that note, we will end this time. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you.